Hey everybody, Felix Staffelbaker here. There is a really good song that I like. Can't remember the guy who sang it, but I'll link it down below. But the chorus is, Are you ready for? Are you ready for? Are you ready for a revolution? A revolution. And I just like that song so much. It's such a good anthem for where we're headed. And if you're not paying attention, you're going to be swept away by the sea of disinformation and government overreach that is upon us, cracking down like a concrete wall onto the top of your head. And what people are not anticipating and not expecting is the next big wave. It is climate lockdowns. That might sound pretty crazy, but we've already had a 2 week to slow the spread of COVID that turned into over 2 years in some cases, and without any signs of letting up. It was all a distraction, all a ruse. Anytime they tell you something, it's a lie. But the next wave that's coming will be climate lockdowns, and it'll be artificial, manufactured, pre-planned scenario where, this is like documents going back 10, 15 years talking about how there will be 100 million climate refugees from developing nations and third world nations, which third world just means unaffiliated. People think that if you say third world, you're talking about poor people, but that has nothing to do with it. After the Cold War, countries that aligned with NATO were considered first world, and then you had other countries, people who were unaffiliated with the United States and Russia and different things were considered third world. It has nothing to do with the level of abject poverty that the IMF and central banks of the world have imposed on these certain countries. It just means that they're regulatorily captured. They have so much debt that they are at the whim of anything that the banks say. And the Bible actually speaks about that not being a usurer and not over taxing people, not using interest rates as a form of a weapon against the population. But you could clearly see the banks are not following that type of moral compass or worried about any sort of repercussions. They feel like they've been given the right to do so, but they're going to, in their own words, take 100 million climate refugees and bring them into the United States so that they can have a permanent underclass and voting bloc that will then vote for tyranny. And people are going to love it. They're going to welcome them in, and it's all going to be under the guise of climate change, and climate lockdown will follow, where everyone will have a certain amount of energy that they're allowed to use, and under the guise of, they've had weather manipulation technologies for 50 years. There was a United Nations weather weapons treaty, and they're able to create earthquakes, they're able to make rain in deserts, they're able to cause other places to have droughts, and it's a form of control for food and energy. And they're going to use all that type of stuff to limit people's ability to move. They're going to have a climate lockdown, and you might only get 2 or 3 tanks of gas a month And once you hit your limit, either through your credit card, which is already being issued through a bank that will be connected to your social credit score, to your central bank digital currency. If you go to the gas station and you've gone on a road trip, you might only get a little bit out, and then you won't be able to buy anymore. It'll say that your allotment has been reached, that you won't be able to purchase stuff like gasoline, especially for combustion engine vehicles. And it will also go to electricity, where you'll have rolling blackouts. You won't be able to power up things so much. You won't be able to buy meat. If you do buy meat, it'll be injected with the same shots that you had to get for your freedom. They held you hostage for 2 years and told you had to get a mandatory medical injection. And now they're going to be putting that in the meat. So if you can even afford meat or even find meat, it will be basically not meat. It will be something totally different because of the way that the mRNA affects things. And this is all going to be done in the name of climate change, in the name of trying to save the earth. But it will be at the cost of everything, at the cost of your freedom, your sovereignty, your liberty, your happiness, everything. And people just aren't ready for a system like that. It will be a total shock, and it will anger a lot of people. But if you can get 100 million climate refugees here, it'll make cracking down a lot easier, because you won't have the concentrated force to be able to fight back in a meaningful way. So the only real way to fight back would be through Bitcoin, taking your money out of the system before they come down on you with the hammer, and withdrawing your consent and forming a new path for you and your family. And that's really the only option at this point. So I just want to put that out there. Things are going to get crazy, super crazy, but stay focused on what we know to be true and what we know can help us in the end. So I just want to put that out there. Staffelmaker.